Alright, welcome back to another episode of StichMethod. Today we're going to talk all about the Dorian Mode, everything about it, so you understand from top to bottom, soup to nuts, how it all works. Before we get there, make sure you do share and subscribe, and before I even start, I want to mention that this video is airing on July 28th, 2020. And on July 30th, I'll be going live on my friend Guitar Hack's channel. He'll be linked below in the description box, Guitar Hack, and we'll be doing a live discussion all about modes. If you happen to watch this video after July 30th, feel free to still click on the link and find his channel, and you can watch the discussion in a replay. All right, let's get down to it. All right, Dorian. Now, before we begin, I want to explain a couple things. There are two types of modes. There's something called relative modes and parallel modes. We will talk all about it in a couple seconds. But relative modes are the chords or the chord progression that go together, and parallel is all about the scales. And you need to be able to separate those two in your mind, because if you can't, then you're going to be really, really confused. So, right now we're going to start off with the relative modes, the chords. So what does Dorian mean? Dorian literally means is the two of. That's it. When you hear Dorian, you want to say to yourself, well, Dorian means is the two of. For instance, if I'm playing a song in A Dorian, it really means that A is the two of something. If I'm playing something in C sharp Dorian, it means that C sharp is the number two of something. Well, what do we mean by that? Well, modes are based off of major scales. For now, we're talking about the modes of the major scale. So a major scale is also known as a key, by the way. It's important stuff. So if I have a G major scale, let's pull up a G major scale here. Boom, right? You can look and we have G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Well, if I start something on the A, the number 2, we now have an A Dorian. A is the two of G, okay? You can see it happening here. But now let's just talk about the relative modal thing. Let's take a look at the key of G again, but let's look at it harmonized, which means that we have all the chords that go in it. Now we have, you can see that the number 2 is now an A minor chord. So if I use these chords, but I start on number 2, I don't know where number 2 is, I'm pointing, maybe it's over here. Sorry about that. If I start on number 2, then what's going to happen is I now have an A Dorian progression. That's all it is. So the idea is, now I start on an A minor, I start a progression, all I want to do is start on that chord. This is now an A Dorian progression. That's simple. That is it. Let's do another A Dorian progression just to show you. So A Dorian, okay, nothing's changed. A is the 2 of what? Oh, it's the number 2 of the key of G, right? Okay, so I'm going to do another progression. How about A minor to B minor, A minor, B minor. You see, I'm just playing from the 2 to the 3. Great, so now I'm going to turn my distortion off. Didn't even realize it was on. And now you understand, hopefully, that all it means is that you're starting the chords on number 2. That's what relative modal playing is. Now, let's take a look at all the keys. Now, I've been practicing this. I don't know if it's going to work, but if I do this, and then I kind of, okay, hopefully you have all the chords here. I've been wanting to do that for 3 years. All right, so all the keys here, sorry, all the keys should be listed right next to me. And if you look, I just made every single number 2 a different color. And so if in the key of C, D is number 2, so D Dorian really means that we're playing with the chords of the C major scale. If you look at, I don't know, the key of D, you can see that E minor is number 2, and if we start something using the chords of the key of D, but start on number 2, you have a Dorian progression. That's all it means. It's right there. These are all the keys. All right, so we're starting to understand that to write a Dorian progression, or to understand what a Dorian progression is in terms of relative modes, it means that we just have the chords of a key, but we're starting on number 2. Now, I'll give you some fair advice. You know, when writing a song with lyrics, you can start on number 2, and you can throw in as many chords as you want, and it will still be considered a Dorian progression. But when it comes time to soloing over a Dorian progression, usually 2, 3, 4 chords at most really help keep that mode sounding like Dorian. So you don't want to write a chord progression, that's like A minor, G, B minor, C, D, E minor, G, B minor, A, because the flavor of the solo or the jam is going to get lost. So usually you find in jam bands or in improv, think Pink Floyd, Many of their songs many of their jams are Dorian jams. Time, Breathe. I'm trying to think of all of them. Any Color You Like. Another Brick in the Wall. All these songs are Dorian jams with just kind of 2 chords that David Gilmour kind of like plays over. You can check them out. They all start on number 2. Not all Pink Floyd songs, many of them. All right, so that is the idea of a Dorian progression, which another word for progression is relative modes, the chord progressions. Okay, now let's take a look at the scales of it. Now we're going to talk more here. It's not going to be over anytime soon, but now we're going to talk about the scales, which are referred to as parallel modes. Now, nothing really has changed. If I go back to the key of G, you can see A is the number 2, and when we're talking about scales now a Dorian scale is just a G major scale, but you start on the A. And that's all it is. I mean, here's a G major scale, but now I'm going to start on the A. Nothing's changed. So that is how simple it is. Let's take a look at D Dorian, all right? Hopefully that fishing reel thing will pop back up here. And D Dorian, well, it means that D is the number 2 of what? Well, it's the number 2 of C. So I find a major scale, and I just kind of put my pinky, here it is. Here's the C major scale. I should show you that first. And now, I start on my D instead of my C. And that is a D Dorian scale, and so on and so on. Dorian is the number 2 of. So, when working with chords, you want to know what we call the harmonized major scale, or what chords go into a key. And when we're dealing with scales or parallel modes, you just want to know what notes go into the actual scale. And they've been up on this video twice already. So now, all right, let's talk. If I have an A Dorian progression, all right, let's go back to that key of G here, okay? A is the number 2 of what? Number 2 of G, it's the key of G. We have an A Dorian progression. If I have an A Dorian progression, A minor to G, A minor, how about G, D? So here's my progression. Now, the good news is Dorian is actually pretty strict with all of the soloing ideas that you can put on top of it. You're probably like, well, what do you mean? Well, if I have an A Dorian progression, I can choose really 2 things to solo with on top of any Dorian progression. So let me cut here for a second, clear my looper, and get this loop down. All right, so I have my loop down now, and now we're going to try to take a solo over this. Now, soloing over, like I just mentioned a couple seconds ago, soloing over a Dorian backing track really it's not limiting. There's a comfort in the fact that you can't do that much. We can talk about it, but once you have it down, you got it down. And so I have an A Dorian progression. What does that mean? A is the 2 of. The 2 of what? G. Okay, great. I'm really using a G major scale. I'm really in the key of G. I'm just starting on the A. That's all it means, right? And so I'm going to play this G major scale up on the 12th fret. All right, this basic G major scale, the notes being G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. But instead of starting on the G now, I'm just going to start on the A, which is here. Okay, so let's see what it sounds like when I'm playing an A Dorian progression and I'm soloing with an A Dorian scale. A is the 2 of what? A is the 2 of G. It's a G major scale, starting on the A. So I'm going to start on the A. You can just hear it works well. Great. So, relative mode, we got it. A Dorian, those are the chords. Parallel modes on top, scales. All right, so that's the obvious one. We have an A Dorian progression. Let's use an A Dorian scale. The other one that you can use, all right, in terms of soloing, now there is a caveat, and we'll talk about it in a couple of seconds, is just the pentatonic of your start point, all right? And so Here we have an A Dorian progression. We're starting on A minor, so an A minor pentatonic will work. And this is what you find. All right, so an A minor pentatonic. And so I want to back up and say, you can in a Dorian progression, you can always use its Dorian scale. Okay, boom, right on top. But if you think it's too colorful, too busy, you can always use the minor pentatonic of your starting point if you're in a mode or Dorian mode. So in this case, I started on the A minor, so A minor pentatonic. So I'm going to play an A minor pentatonic right here. And let's see what it sounds like. Here we go, same progression. Alright, so you can see it works fine. Now, we have a little bit more to talk about here. Alright, so in a Dorian progression, you can solo with its Dorian scale, which is the same scale that the chords are derived from, just put it right on top, great. Or you can use the minor pentatonic of the chord you started on. A minor chord, A minor pentatonic. Now, the little asterisk here is the entire time you can also be trying to solo and incorporate all the chord tones of the chords that are happening. And that's something that I talk about all throughout my channel. Maybe I'll try and link a video up here to talk about how to find your chord tones. But the idea is, the scales are the emulsifiers and the chord tones are like the little bits of toffee that you get into. So you want to know all the time how to incorporate chord tones into your soloing, but these scales are what's always going to work. And so let's just try this really quickly with one more example and see if we can do it. Let's do something in E Dorian. All right, so E Dorian. So let's see what we can do here. Let me turn off my distortion. All right, so E is the number 2 of what? Okay, all right, it's the number 2. It's the number 2 in the key of D. So we're working in the key of D right now. And so if I have a progression that's in the key of D, now I'm just going to make it 2 chords, right? Just 2 chords. And so I'm going to be E minor to D. So let me just pause, get that loop down, and we'll talk about some more stuff. All right, so all I did is I chose, okay, well, E minor is the second note in the key of D, and let's just see what it sounds like when I go to the first note, which is D. So those chords are going to be E minor to D. Right, E minor to D. All right, and so let's just see what that sounds like in the jam. E minor, right? D. E Dorian. Simple. Okay, so we have that. That's the relative modal progression. Okay, it's just a 2 to 1. Anything Dorian is always going to start on number 2. Fact. All right. So now let's talk about what can we solo on top of this with. Well, we have 2 options. We have the D major scale starting on the E, known as a full E Dorian scale, or we have an E minor pentatonic. All right, so let me show you how I'm going to do this. I'm going to stay on this 12th fret. Now, finding these scales, this stuff is all over my channel, but you can pick any D major scale you want. And let's see, I'll pick, I'm going to pick this one up here. Okay, I'll show you why. All right, so D major scale in this area, and if you want to learn this with me, you can. It's going to be like this. It's going to be E, F sharp, G, all right, A, B, C sharp, D, then E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G. That is the D major scale is starting on the E. Hopefully a graphic came up. And the pattern that looks like is going to be 12, 14, 15, 12, 14, 11, 12, 14, 11, 12, 14, 12, 14, 15, 12, 14, 15. That's a D major scale up on the 12th fret. And I'm going to start it on the E here. So now I'm going to turn my distortion on, and I'm going to play that backing track, and I'm just going to play my D major scale starting on the E, E Dorian scale, and let's see how well they line up. see it works. A lot of color in there, and you can hop around and be really fast with it. But now it's like, okay, well, what's that second option? You're going to see why I chose up here. Well, the song starts on an E minor. All right. Didn't he just said that I can use the pentatonic of the first chord? Yeah, E minor is our start, E minor pentatonic. Now, the reason you might want to do this is when you have chords that are working really fast, sometimes you can't really like sew them together too well, so the pentatonic is going to sound a little bit beefier. And so now, just the E minor pentatonic on top of this is going to work. So here we go, let's see. Now, I was just trying to really keep it in that box. And so the idea is, you can see, I mean, we can do this over and over and over again. All the while, you do want to be paying attention to chord tones, but we're not going to introduce that right now because this is pretty much a monster lesson. To recap, right, what we did here is we played something in E Dorian. So what does that mean? It means E is the number 2. Well, the number 2 of what? Oh, well, let's look at the keys. Oh, it's the number 2 of the key of D. Cool. Where'd this chord progression come from? Okay, well, I can see that the key of D, the chords are D major, E minor, F sharp minor, G major, A minor, B minor, and C sharp diminished. It looks like we went from the 2 chord to the 1 chord. Well, we start on the 2, E minor, cool, E Dorian, perfect. What can we solo with? We can solo with the D major scale starting on the E, that's E Dorian, or we can start with the E minor pentatonic. That's it. This is the Dorian mode explained completely. And if you want to write songs in it, or if you want to listen to songs and see if you can figure out, again, if you're a fan of Pink Floyd, a lot of their like smooth, like Pink Floyd-y jams are always in Dorian. You know, I'm a big fan of a lot of jam bands. A lot of jam bands write in Dorian because it's a good sound. So you go, you write some Dorian jams. You listen and if you can identify some Dorian jams. Hopefully, I answered some questions about Dorian. I'll stop talking. If you catch this on July 28th or 29th, I'll see you on Guitar Hack's channel on July 30th, talking about the stuff live. And if I don't see you then I'll see you next time. Probably on Thursday on a Guitar Fundamentals video. Take care. Thank you so much for being here. Bye bye.